And it's another gear up for Man the Fuck Up Monday on the Lock and Load show. Sound of Freedom, broadcasting across the interwebs, across the universe, simulcasting on gun channels, and we'll be talking about guns, freedom, and the truth until dawn, and covering current events, stuff like that. So, let's see. First topic I wanted to go over, since I got Dusty on. There's been a lot of YouTube channels of people that are prepping, talking about the possibility of a food scarcity crisis coming on. But is that really a possibility? Because it seems to me like it just seems more like the prices might go up instead of just there not being a sufficient supply. And if you could tell me also what the emergency farm aid bill or disaster bill that the Congress and President passed is supposed to have $3 billion for farmers whose crops were destroyed or couldn't plant because of the floods. And is that going to be enough to cover all the claims that are going to be made, or how much is it short by?
It's probably short by about 5 or 6 times. That total bill probably will come, 12, 15 billion before it's all said and done. Because that's just like, even my area here and the farm that I work on now, we have 1,000 acres we didn't plant. And I just spent a week in southern Indiana, and every field you drove by down there is not planted. So it's not really, it's a major area. And then you have all the areas like that, probably close to Oklahoma can probably share. Probably in his area, there's a lot of areas that are drowned out, and those crops are not going to make anything. So yes, we lost a major amount of crops. When will the consumer see the price increase? We had a large inventory of grain, and we had a large inventory of a lot of other stuff. So it will probably be a year or two down the road. Especially like this summer, you will see a lot of beef farmers that will not be able to afford feed their beef, and they will dump a lot of cattle on the market. But like processed meat, we have probably a year's supply of meat in freezers. And to take a steer and go from feeder weight to finishing it, you're generally looking at about 12 months to finish a steer out. So a lot of the meat prices will come into play next year, not this year.
But is there going to be an actual shortage based on what was lost in the floods, or is it just going to be increased prices?
It's going to be, prices are supply and demand. Farming has always been supply and demand. If there's no supply, it's going to be worth a whole lot more. Right now, my local elevator is paying a 20 to 25 cent premium over the Chicago Board of Trade on corn, which means that I could ship grain that I have right now and get 25 cents more than what it's trading on the Chicago Board of Trade right now, because the elevators want to own grain.
If I may add something, I really don't think that there will be a shortage. I think that there will be, well, let me rephrase it. I don't know that there wouldn't be a shortage, because everywhere else in the country, well, I don't want to say everywhere else, but a lot of other places in the country are still growing stuff. The price would most likely go up quite a bit. But as far as what's going on here in my area of Oklahoma, we've gotten rain today for the first time in probably 2 weeks. And I've been relying on rain to water my garden. Um, I
What's
noticed
left of it? The
yesterday.
locust.
Yeah, yeah. After the grasshoppers, fuck you, grasshoppers. Um, but I noticed yesterday when I went out and checked my garden and did a little bit of harvesting that my habaneros were starting to stress. You could see that they were starting to wilt. They were stressed for water. So I went out and watered, and of course, it rained. What a surprise! It's usually what happens. But the storms had actually been missing me. So in the area that I'm in, we are really we are starting to go into a drought. Uh, we're starting to drought at this. And now next week they say that we're supposed to get a tropical storm, which I know that sounds weird for Oklahoma, but I guess the tropical storm is coming in off the Gulf and is going to
Well,
make its way all the way up here.
it's on Georgia. It's in Georgia right now, and it has to go to the Gulf of Mexico to form, and then it can go over back
Yeah,
overland so it's a weird one.
yeah. Now, I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh man, I hope we don't. I hope this doesn't, come get us or come hit us." But for those like me that rely on rain, um, I'm I'm hoping that we do get quite a bit, not enough to drown out, just enough to water or to fill up my rain barrels, because I'm out of rainwater, and I actually used up city water, which I hate doing because it can get expensive.
Cost money.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so
So
where I'm at in Oklahoma, we're having the opposite problem at this time.
Okay, well, we could send you a lot of rain. We're to the other extreme.
I will
We've
gladly
had
accept it,
mud for
please.
2 months.
So the problem, for people that are like preppers but aren't really understanding farming, is that during the planting season, there's only a limited time where they can plant, and it rained so much that it was too muddy for the tractors to operate, and so they couldn't plant
Right.
anything.
Absolutely.
And that was all
Well,
over the farm belt in the country.
um,
And,
depending
and
on
go ahead.
depending on the crop, like right now, I could probably go out and plant more squash, and because the squash bugs are tearing up mine, but I can probably because some fruits and vegetables actually have a very fast turnaround. They have a very fast production rate, and I could probably go out and plant more squash, and I'll have plenty by October. Because here we actually don't get really, really cold temperatures until late November or maybe mid-November, and sometimes we might get a freak uh, thing going on, and we will get.
The locusts don't
Um,
return, though. I mean,
oh yeah, if it's going to be hot, that they'll be here.
But
But
now, like for my area, HVS, to help you understand a little bit, for where I live, for corn, number 2 yellow corn, the federal planting date is June 5th. Every day after June 5th, they reduce the premium that they will pay on that acre of corn, and you have to assume that risk. Well, after June 5th, it really does not pay to plant corn in my area. And on soybeans, the planting date is June 15th. So after June 15th, you are better off to take the crop insurance premium than you are to plant the soybeans.
let me
And that's
explain.
where,
Real quick, Dusty. Let me explain to them, the non-farming viewers, what that means. Basically, um, anything after those dates, if you can look at it as a stock market, anything after those dates, the price just drops, and it's really not worth all the fuel, the time. If you have to have people working for you, the manpower, it's not worth that. So basically, if you have silos or grain bins, then and you know what I'm talking about when we talk about soybeans. that would be something that would be most feasible to store and maybe sell by the off season when prices go back up.
So
But it's like a stock market thing.
I think what just
Well,
most preppers
Oklahoma, I have grain bins on my farm. I have a 10,000 bushel bin, and I have a 30,000 bushel bin. So yes, I know all about storing grain. But
I think
even then,
Yeah.
I just want to say, I think what most like just regular preppers want to know is just like, should they like be like stockpiling food now, or should they not? I mean, my take
my
is
personal opinion is yes.
really, but you say there's
Yeah.
not going to be a shortage, just the price might go up.
Well, see, hang on.
But that's the
What I
thing of
think
it is.
what I think he means is it's a given. You should, as practice, as general prepper practice. But also, not only that, it's also good to learn how to cultivate and grow and harvest and protect your foods and stuff like that, so that you can it's not just about buying up you know uh, everything you can get your hands on, Wise or Mountain House or whatever. It's about um, the general practice of it in the first place is what I think he's going for. Yes, but at the same time, it wouldn't hurt to maybe add a few items to that order, that monthly or weekly order,
What I'm trying to
just
get
in
at
case.
is that when there's like events that happen in current events or politics or the weather, like these floods and rains and earthquakes, there's kind of a tendency to just panic buy stuff in large amounts, and to me that really doesn't make sense unless you're getting a really good price and you can get something that'll last, that's shelf stable, that'll last for a long while. I mean, my practice is always just to buy a little bit on a regular basis, and then you won't have to panic if something happens. But I mean, a
The
lot of
other
people.
way I look at that too is you never know what could happen. Um, Even in my family situation, say something happened with my wife that she got sick. Okay, so we're not going to have her salary for months till she recuperates. Let's say. So I still feel everybody should have at least a year's food on hand, because even just for something as silly as losing your job.
That's an
You
expensive
know,
proposition for you to say, for somebody to have, because that's 1,000,000 calories per person per year for an adult. So then that's an expensive proposition. So you can say
I'll
that
bet we're close to that on my place here,
everybody,
HVS.
okay, but you're not everybody. I mean, it's really, when I did the math, I wasn't as close as I thought I was, but um, it's another thing that was brought up by someone who has nothing to do with any of these chats is that like Mormons, for example, they traditionally they have lots and lots of food that they stockpile, and but I think not really being an expert on Mormons, although I've known a few, is that they make their decisions based on their religious belief in the Book of Revelations. And I think for me, I try and base my decisions on just what I see in front of me, not on any religious text. But people can, not that my way is right and somebody else's way is wrong, but it's just that I'm trying to determine based on what I'm seeing. I mean, should I be concerned that there's a serious chance of, based on the weather and the farm crop yields, uh, is there a real problem with the food supply?
And being on your island, I would be very concerned, because I would say yes, because I kind of think you'll be the last to get it if there is.
Well, it's funny. I was at Safeway today picking up a couple of 1 pound cans of McCann's Steel Cut Irish Oats, and there was this lady complaining that the Lighthouse brand of coleslaw dressing, she wanted to make a bunch of coleslaw. There wasn't any there, and like the store manager had told her that there would be. And I said, you're living on an island that's 3,000 miles from the nearest continental landmass. And she says, I know where I am. I've been living here for 40 years. And it's like, well, okay, you know where you're living, but I mean, you're standing in a store where that's run by the just-in-time delivery system. And so, I mean, are we seeing any food supply interruptions right now?
No, because this country has so much food in cold storage yet. You know, you don't realize that a lot of our food goes into a major freezer before it ever goes into a grocery store. And we have warehouses all over this country that store just food. Very seldom, like something I would raise, it will be months before it would ever hit the grocery store. Even beef, especially beef. You know, we'll kill steers and they'll go into a freezer and they might be there a year before they hit the market even to be sold.
Yeah, as long as the power grid's up. Yeah, what happens if the power grid goes down? That would be a lot of spoiled
Guess what?
meat.
Most of them have generators, but fuel will become a major issue then too. As always.
I think. See, we've got to look at history to plan for the future. I don't think it's going to be near as big as we're anticipating, but we always anticipate, and you all, all three of you guys know, and everybody that's watching know that it doesn't matter what we anticipate. We always anticipate for the worst and hope for the best. But you should always anticipate that it's going to be worse than it is. Now, that being said, look at the past and how many times have y'all been flooded out? How many times have we been flooded out? How many times have we hit droughts that lasted, 4 or 5 months before we got rain? And I mean, everything was just completely dead. That's happened several times, over. And, at my age, I still don't even remember a time when things were bad enough that we were having to literally scavenge for food. But that being said, always anticipate it's going to be worse than it is, or that it will be. Now, he mentioned earlier that it's always safe to have a year's supply of food on hand. But Hawaii, let me ask you a question real quick. How much food storage how much food do you have on hand? Do you have a year's supply right now?
I'd say I'm closer to 6 months than a year.
Okay, and how long did it take you to get that?
Years.
Right. I mean, it's not necessarily go out right now and buy a year's supply of food. It's more of a, as you go, every time you go grocery shopping, get a few extra things that you're going to put in your prepper storage. It's something like that, but it's
that's
always
exactly what we do at Oklahoma.
Yeah, and that's a rule. That's basically a rule. It's the rule of thumb as a prepper. I've got so much food storage here that I don't have places to put it anymore, so I'm having to stop buying extra stuff.
I know what you mean. It's just that there's so many. There's been a lot of videos on YouTube lately by a lot of big prepper channels, talking about food scarcity and go out and make sure you have a lot of 50-pound bags of rice. I mean, and buckets and Mylar bags and oxygen absorbers and
I guess the only thing I will say I've done different is I bought a steer a couple weeks ago, and then I just ordered this weekend. I just ordered my wife a new canner, and this steer that I'm going to butcher in a couple weeks, we are going to can all that meat rather than freeze it, just so we have meat that will last. Because, like you said, if we lose a power grid, our freezers could be a problem. So,
I mean, I do have some dehydrated. I think it's freeze dried beef chunks.
but even then, that meat that we will use it because the canned meat will be a whole lot more convenient to cook with than pulling a steak out of the freezer and cooking with it, because you don't have to thaw it. And the meat in the cans are already cooked. You can pull it out and mix it in like a stew or something. And
Yeah,
it's ready
you just have to check your cans for if they make any sounds when you like press on the lids to see if they're
just tap on them.
See if they have
you
their
can
seal.
tell easily by tapping on a lid whether it's sealed or not.
Yeah, so
We
basically,
can.
if it makes a weird sound, then it could have a busted seal and could go bad. It's possible.
If it rings, it's sealed. If it goes stud, it's not. The seal is broken. It's easy. That's easy HVS. That's not a real worry. We can a lot of vegetables. I have a big garden every year, and we can 90% of the vegetables out of my garden. I have 2 cupboards in my basement that are full of canned goods that we can every summer.
Well, I have to buy all my good canned goods, and condo living has its upsides and downsides, I suppose. But anyway, okay, I think we covered the whole food.
I think so. And like I said, the only thing that I want to add to that is we talked a little bit about meat. I just bought a bunch of pigs, or I had 6 pigs delivered today, and I went and bought feed. Feed prices have jumped since I had them last winter, and that's what you're going to see. Soybeans and corn have their prices jump, so feed costs are going to jump. Some of these guys that are struggling are not going to be able to pay their monthly feed bills. And that's why I say you will see a shortage of meat and livestock. If they can't pay their bill, the only choice they have
You're talking
is
about,
that.
you were saying about like a couple years down the road, though, right?
No, I'm saying this summer, you probably will see a lot of extra animals slaughtered this summer just because farmers can't pay the feed bill on them. So they're going to get slaughtered young, and it's going to make maybe a short-term drop in the market on meat. But then after all these animals are not on feed anymore, there will be a shortage of meat. So and that's what I see happening.
It's your chance for your wife to brush up on veal cutlets recipes. But maybe freeze dry some of them after you get done cooking them, and send one to me. But anyway, all right, we covered that. So it's just there's a lot of fear porn out there about whenever there's major weather events, and a lot of prepper channels are going. Big ones are are trotting out all their food preps and saying do like I do, and it's just it's expensive. It's an expensive thing to run out and buy a year's worth of food all at once, or even a little at a time. So I just think people don't have to. It's like, don't panic. I would be happy if people followed the advice in my state that's in the phone book and the civil defense advice. Like, if we have heard this is hurricane season now, so at least 2 weeks of food, and most people don't have more than a few days worth of food, but yeah, I mean, I'm surprised at how much food I have. But when you do the math, as far as having 1 million calories per person, and then actually sit down and really do the math on how many calories you have, then that was worth doing. But I'm still not going to panic and run out and buy, another 500 cans of Mountain House or something crazy. Because it would cost.
And then the other thing you have to consider, okay, you have all that stored. How willing are you going to be to protect it? Because if somebody finds out you have it, they're going to come after it.
Depending on how hungry they are and if they know I have it.
But you have to examine that for yourself too. You got to decide.
I've got a nice elevated position with which to protect my top floor condo. So if I have to, my only thing is if I'm bugging out and I have to throw everything into the blazer and bug out to some bug out location somewhere, then it would be how do I get it? I'd have to try and sneak it out while there's like a bunch of hungry people watching me do it, So that might be an issue without
you might find yourself dead on the stairway.
I'm like the most heavily armed person in like 100-mile radius, except for the guy that owns the gun shop. So, but so I don't think
you can say that, but arms are not going to help you. It only takes one bullet to kill you.
Right. Well, so I'll have to create a diversion when I do that. Maybe I'll have to create a diversion. I'll have to come up with a good plan to get if I have to bug out. If I have to bug out, things are going to be really bad. So in which case, I could do diversions that would distract people that they would notice and not look at me. I could make something big go bang nearby and in such a way that everybody would be looking at that and not me loading up my blazer and getting out of town. But
just don't buy tannerite like Squib had this weekend.
Well, what's wrong with tannerite?
Explain, Squib. He must have left us.
I've got to go through 3 screens to unmute.
All right, tell us about how you guys.
We found out that tannerite might possibly have a shelf life. It might expire.
See, that is good to know. As a prepper, I'm not giving you a hard time, but as a prepper, could you explain to us? Because here in Oklahoma, tannerite's like candy. You could go buy it anywhere. Could you explain to us that so that I can understand that?
Okay, so we attempted to make tannerite bot probably in 2014 or 2015. I'm going to guess. I've had it long. I've stored it in a one of those plastic ammo cans with a rubber seal on the lid with desiccant in there, and everything was still original packaging. And we tried 7 half-pound cans of it, or jars of it, and only were able to detonate 2. The other ones, the round struck it, shattered it, went right through it, and all that was powder poured out.
Okay, you were roboting really bad. So you're saying it didn't work?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yes, out of all we shot, we got 2 booms. Most of it just did not explode for him.
Well, I use
the reason,
but I have shockwave. I don't know if that's better or worse, or if it's the same thing.
the reason I'm concerned, the reason for my concern and my questioning is because there's a lot of good uses for survival and prepping that tannerite has. For one, a diversion. For 2, one shot to kill a bunch of pigs, for example. I'm sure you guys have seen those videos. And you
I
know,
haven't,
even
but I'll take your word for it.
oh man, yeah, take my word for it if you don't want to see pigs flying in the air. But
I would not recommend it for either of those things.
Right.
right,
I wouldn't either after watching what happened
So
with us.
here's the thing: it's binary. You have to mix the two things together. They're
right,
stored separately for a
Right.
reason, for safety. But also, once you mix them together, they've got to have a shelf life now for sure. If they don't have a shelf life
yeah,
separate, they've got to have a. So it's not like you mix it and hold on to it for 2 weeks and it's going to work. And especially if it's been
Right.
exposed to humidity or rain or anything like it's done, right? So that's one
got
thing.
it.
And you need the time to take you have to mix it in a jar and then put it back in the original jar and then place it. And then you have to get a clean shot at it. And you've got to hit it with the right kind of ammunition. Another
Right,
thing is I was 25 feet away from it at one point and shot it and got it to detonate. And I didn't even feel a concussion. I would be comfortable shooting a half. Now this is a half pound. Shooting a half pound at closer than 25 feet and feeling safe. Honestly, I mean, I'm not going to recommend it to somebody. Do your own due diligence. But I paced it off, and the second one, the first one I shot at distance. That was probably 50 feet or more.
So Squib, you've kind of seen on like Google Maps, like the street that I live on, right? Because you
Yeah.
looked at it, right? Did you see the gas station at the bottom of the street? That's all I have to say on it.
Yes, but even then, you know, we placed it right tight against the washing machine, and the first one we shot, it went off, but it did not move that washing machine. It didn't tip it over.
It dented the 11 gauge sheet metal at the bottom, and it
Right.
did create a very shallow crater. It burned all the grass off and created a shallow crater, but it wasn't anything impressive. And you go, well, that was only half a pound. All right, great. So what you're going to tell me is you're going to have a bunch of 10-pound jugs of this all over the place?
Well, we're not doing a video on how to blow up a gas station.
You couldn't blow up a gas station with tannerite. You would have to have a Ryder truck full of tannerite to blow up a gas station. I would not use that on a structure and expect it to do anything more than shatter windows and mess up the paint. Seriously, it'd be like Die Hard. It's going to need a paint job and a shitload of screen doors. I would not use tannerite. Based on my experience using explosives in the military, I wouldn't use tannerite for anything other than entertainment.
I don't, but civilians can't get military-grade explosives. Tannerite.
I understand that, but I wouldn't even classify tannerite as an explosive. That's how I mean.
It goes boom when it works.
It goes. So does an M80. I'd rather have firecrackers, honestly. Look, it's fun. We giggled. We giggled like teenage boys. Yeah, we giggled like teenage boys. The two that went off, and we would like to go back and try it again with a larger quantity just to see what it'll do and stuff like that, and maybe get some new stuff and see if maybe that helps if it was, you know, just recently store bought instead of a few years old. But I mean, as far as using it for a diversion, sure, but you shooting at it, you better hit it on that first shot. Otherwise, I mean, you know, if you're taking 3 or 4 shots at it, you're giving away your position. And then using it to blow up a building or a structure or a car, I wouldn't use it. I wouldn't even use it on people, honestly. It wouldn't. It just, and it's not like a grenade where you can just light the fuse and throw it or something, right? This is something where you have to have it in place. It has to have been recently mixed, and you've got to probably get it on the first or second shot, or else that's it. So.
Well, if you miss it, you miss it, but you have to hit it. Okay. So.
Right, but
Yeah,
I'm saying while you're missing it, they're going, where's that gunfire coming from? Oh, look, there he is. So
it takes a lot of tannerite to blow up a car, and it takes a whole lot more to blow up a building,
an amount that would make it impractical to carry it or to set it up.
Well, have you considered using tannerite with gasoline, like a big exploding Molotov cocktail?
You would still have to have a open flame, because tannerite specifically, now I don't know about the other brands, but tannerite specifically doesn't use it doesn't create enough heat. It just I don't know how. I've shot it at night, and it just, you can see a small light in the middle of it. It's not
Yeah,
really.
there was no
It
real
doesn't
flash
create a lot. Yeah,
because
there's.
it was late in the evening when we was shooting at it, and of course,
Well, I
Squib
think
was shooting and I was watching.
you guys
You
need some
heard the
practice.
boom, but you never seen the tannerite really do anything.
You guys need some practice blowing up stuff, I think.
Hey, I'll tell you. I'll practice blowing up stuff.
That's the man your fuck up assignment for this week. Blow up some stuff.
Okay, so wait a minute. Maybe next time, how about if we get some gasoline and put it next to it and see what happens? Get a tin can, put some gasoline in it. That way the fumes are fuming, right?
A milk carton or a water jug or something.
Yeah, something small that would, and it's something we could dump a 5-gallon bucket of water on and put out, and just
if it's
see what it
sealed,
does.
though, it's not going to ignite. You
No,
can take
an open top. Like a soup can with the top taken off, full of not a large amount of enough.
So where it's evaporating and the fumes are going everywhere.
Right. It's open. It's
you
not
can take
sealed.
a match and throw it right on gasoline, and it will not explode.
Right. It's the fumes that ignite. So what I'm saying is leave it open, but have such a small amount that we can prove that it works, but not so large that we're calling Oklahoma to come put it out.
Or he can see it from his house.
Yeah, that's not a good thing.
Oh, that's right. We got a firefighter on the site, don't we?
We have a firefighting chief. So,
and there's that video of that. I believe he was an immigration officer that blew up some tannerite on a gender reveal party that started a wildfire. Now, there are some very rare instances like that, but that was a lot of tannerite, for one. Second of all, the fuel. When I start talking about fuel, I'm talking about the grasses and stuff like that. The fuel loading, the fuel, dead fuel moisture, the humidity, the winds, the everything have to be absolutely perfect for something like that to happen. That being said, with gasoline, it takes it's like basically if you can imagine shooting at a propane bottle to see it explode. If you just put a propane bottle out there and shoot it with a regular 223 full metal jacket round, you're not going to see a lot of anything other than propane spewing out of the bottle. Now, if you took a road flare and duct taped it to the side of that thing and lit it and then shot it, you'd see there'd be a big difference. And that's what tannerite really is. It's like shooting a propane bottle with a regular full metal jacket round. It's not going to do anything but spew. Tannerite, doing that to gasoline is going to be the same thing. It's just going to blow up the gasoline. There may be some rare instances where you actually do get a fireball out of it, but it's going to be a very rare thing. And if any of you have a gas stove and you go to turn on the stove and you hear it clicking and clicking and clicking and clicking, that's because the fuel to air mixture has to be right. It has to be 5% mixture, fuel to air, before it ignites. Because even if I could put a
I gotta
match.
tell you guys, you're making it sound a lot harder than my experience was. I mean, I once almost just with cooking oil on a stove. I just heated it up too hot, and because I took this class on how to cook mushrooms, and the chef was like, you got to get it really hot. So when I got home, I put it on really hot, and I was too stupid to know. I turned it up, and it was so hot when I threw the mushrooms on the cooking oil that there was like an explosion of flame, and I didn't even know what to do right away. And then my mother just walks over, puts the lid over the thing, and it goes out. was so
Yeah, but
funny.
the conditions, it's the same principle all around, all across the board for anything flammable when you're dealing with fire. The conditions have to be absolutely perfect for things like that to happen. You know, it's like you've heard I call it a myth. It can happen and it does happen, but very rarely. You've heard the thing about don't throw your cigarette out the window, you'll start a fire. That is so hard to do. The conditions have to be absolutely right, and it's like literally 1 in 1,000 chance of that actually happening.
Well, I think because of this in California, because of the Santana wind conditions and the dry accumulation of brush and fuel on the sides of the roads and the hills and the mountains, it's like once it starts, it's impossible to stop because you got a 60-mile-an-hour wind pushing a flamethrower. I mean, my place burned down in Malibu. I know, but anyway, we're like way off of whatever the original topic was supposed to be.
Don't start talking about firefighting because I'll go off. I'll go off all to the wrong side of the road.
Okay, Chief.
And I can talk about firefighting too because I've had a major fire before. But so let's stay off that topic, maybe.
All right.
I was looking for something today that I lost in that fire. It seems like every day I run into something that I had once, and then I'll search for it, and I'll say, oh, yeah, that burned up in the fire. So I give up on it.
Yeah, you lose things in the fire. I'll say, see, Vanessa's out there, negotiators out there. Put magnesium powder in your tannerite, negotiator says. In Texas, your exhaust system catches ground, brush, and fire. Okay, all right. We're getting off of the fire topic and going on to something else.
Back to the tannerite. To summarize it, I was not impressed with it. So, there.
Okay.
It would have been good if we had done that a couple days earlier for 4th of July. But and we'll revisit the tannerite, I think. If it's okay with you, Dusty, we'll revisit the tannerite. But and then what was the cartridge you said you wanted to try on it to see if it would detonate it? Was that a 22-250?
No, I was going to say I should go get my 22 Win Mag because I know I could hit it the first time rather than throwing a half a dozen at them like you was with your 223.
Oh, come on, man.
22 will not work. You'll have to get, there is a binary compound like that, like Tannerite. I can never remember the name, but it's designed for 22 rounds, something with a less velocity.
I have Shockwave because that's what the local gun shop here. There's the gun shop in Hilo sells Tannerite. The gun shop in Kona sells Shockwave. So,
well, I guess I also said I could go get my 450 too because
and I want to see if that would set it off. I mean, it's a big,
that's
heavy
a lot
round, but it is
bullet,
traveling
so
fast.
that might even
the speed.
That would
it's not
probably
the weight.
be a better
it's the speed.
test.
Okay, speaking of it, go ahead, finish your thought.
The first time I shot Tannerite, just to see what would happen, I shot it with subsonic ammo, and it didn't do anything, as advertised. And the second time I shot Tannerite was 2 days ago. So as long as that 450 Bushmaster's traveling fast enough, I think it'll be fine, even though it's a big, heavy bullet. So it's all about the velocity, not the weight of the round.
Well, that 450 is almost traveling as fast as your 223.
Then it should set it off. It should set it off.
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of big explosions, what's your guys' thoughts on Iran enriching uranium to 4.5%, breaking the limits of the deal that they signed with the Europeans and the U.S. pulled out of?
We haven't pulled out yet.
Yeah, we have.
You're going to see a whole lot more sanctions on them. And we're trying another route. But don't give up yet, HVS.
I never give up. But I think that... Well, what do you guys think about it? You think a military...
I should get away with it.
You think
Should we
military
allow
action?
him to do? Are you saying we should allow him to do that?
Are you saying military action? Do you think military inaction is inevitable?
If they keep continuing to do it, yes, I think it's going to happen.
I think personally they're just trying to push our buttons to see what we're going to do because they've
Right
already.
now, my feeling is right now we're just kind of dragging our feet to see what Europe and the people that are really affected by it does. We want to see if we have any support. But if we don't have support, I think Trump will go alone and do it by himself.
Well, you always have the Saudis in Israel and the UAE and Kuwait.
And Israel's the one I would worry about. They will jump before we ever jump. Let me tell you.
Iran is just too many people for a small country like Israel to deal
But
with.
I don't think Israel will care. I think they will jump. If we don't do anything, they will.
Israel
jump.
will not invade Iran. Israel might send jets in and bomb Iran, but Israel can't. They don't. They have a defense force. It's not a defense force to laugh at either. But they going on the offense, unless it's an airstrike or a series of airstrikes. I don't know that. I know that they, what was it? The 6-Day War. They invaded Egypt. So
they didn't capture Cairo. They don't want to capture an Arab city.
Yeah, I could see does okay, and I know Iraq borders Israel. Does Iran border Israel?
No, but their proxies do.
See, if they have to go through another country to do even a partial land invasion of Iran, they're going to ask for more trouble than if they bordered Iran and went directly over the border. So I think they would fly over, but I don't think they would. Yeah, I don't think they would cross boundaries. But
I don't know that we'd ever put troops on the ground there.
Okay, so here's the thing. We went into Iraq over weapons of mass destruction because we were afraid they were going to equip terrorists with weapons of mass destruction. They get there, and suddenly these reports of weapons of mass destruction start disappearing all over the place. At first, they're finding evidence of this and that, and there were all this posturing he did with the UN to make it look like he had more than what he really had. He had everybody fooled. And then in the end, the final conclusion is, well, he really didn't have what he said he had. He was on his way, but he really didn't have it. And some of the things that we found, suddenly the information on that all just disappeared. So overall, it was a big wah-wah to going in there under the threat, but then coming up empty-handed, and now we're stuck with no exit strategy. Do they? If they go to Iran, it's the same thing all over again. They might have it. They might actually have it. But the thing is, though, does what president wants to have this? We've already went into a country over that, and it didn't work out so well. Even if Iran, it's more evident. Do you still want to go in? Last time, it just left America with a nah. We don't want to do this kind of thing. And don't get me wrong, I was all for them taking military action against them shooting down the drone. And that's because with those people, they don't understand anything other than force and violence. They really don't.
They seem to be understanding economic sanctions because
they don't give two craps about that.
Sure, are you kidding? Sure they do.
Oh yeah, they're hurting right now. These sanctions we have right now are hurting them real bad. And I think that's kind of why they're testing. They're trying to see how far they can go. They have nothing to lose right now.
Yeah, their oil sales went from 4 million barrels a day down to like 40,000. So they're basically broken, and they basically have no money anymore.
Yeah. So it's kind of like
they can't fund the Hezbollah. They can't
money.
The Houthi
you
rebels.
can only lose so much, and so what do you have to lose if you try to pressure us a little bit now and see what happens? And they're trying. I think they're also trying to do it to keep some morale up in their country, just thinking that maybe they have a chance.
They don't. I think that they'll just be crushed economically, because I don't know if I said it last week, but it's just Tehran is like a modern metropolis. It's not like Pyongyang, where people are used to eating grass and chasing rats for dinner. Uh, Tehran's more like a modern metropolis. They're just not used to that kind of deprivation. And if that's the kind of deprivation that the government is saying that they're going to dish out, then because they want to spend money to mess with the U.S. or Israel or Saudi Arabia, then the people eventually, the whole country is just not going to have any of it. It'll take a while, but they're not gonna live like Pyongyang and eat grass because the mullahs say to. And so there's a lot of posturing in Iran. They have to act like they're bigger than they are. They have to fluff up big like a rooster and make a big noise, but their economy's dead, and pretty much I think the only way to get rid of the stuff is to go in, but not just to go in to the specific uranium enrichment facilities, and take out the critical infrastructure that is relevant, and not to like take over the country. Just a little piece of it to put in. So,
Look,
but
you want to take out the uranium enrichment facilities in Iran, and you want to do it on the cheap, just send me and Jared in there. We got it. Think about it. He can blow it up. I'll cover him. So we're good.
You're going to be using tannerite.
He's going to be using professional military grade explosives.
Well, you'll probably need an authorization for that kind of a mission from the United States.
Well, yeah, that, and I'm going to want to make sure that we've got somebody to come get us, because that's a long walk, man. It'd be like, I don't know which one of us would get on the other one's nerves after a couple days.
You don't want a suicide mission, huh?
Yeah, because we'd be walking back, and the whole way, one of us, we'd be taking turns bitching about how hot it was, the rocks in our boots, how heavy these guns are. They promised they were going to pick us up, and they didn't.
All right. Well, Jared
I can picture that almost.
Today's show, so we can't speak for Jared. We can't volunteer him for this mission yet. He's going to have to come on and volunteer for it. Because you're both heroes, right? Okay. So, it's raining again here. Let's see. California earthquakes. My folks live in Newbury Park, which is kind of Thousand Oaks, north of Point Magoo's Potrero Gate State Park. They didn't feel a thing. And there were 7.1 earthquakes in California, and they didn't feel a thing. So it's very area specific, I guess, as far as whether they felt anything. But I will say the problem California has is if the aqueduct system is destroyed by an earthquake or something like that, then you're going to have a lot of thirsty people in Southern California, because it's a desert. And so if you're in Southern California, I would be really into water preps more than I am here. I mean, it's raining outside. All I have to do is go outside and put a bucket out. But it's like, it's like, we've seen pictures of some properties and stuff that were like really messed up, but my folks didn't feel a thing, and during any of the earthquakes. So it just depends which way the fault is in relation to where your property is, I suppose. So I don't know. I don't think California is going to fall off into the ocean. I wish some of its politicians would. Oh, that's going to get me on my next rant. The whole thing with Kamala Harris making fun of or attacking Joe Biden because he was against busing or something like that. what I remember about busing is, and I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember, is when I was in elementary school. I'm trying to remember fourth grade. Well, I think I did first, second, and third grade in private school, and then I switched to public school for fourth grade, or was it fifth grade? And then they wanted to introduce busing. And that never happened until junior high school for me. And the thing was, I don't think anybody minded if parents wanted, black kids wanted their kids to get a better education at a suburban school somewhere in suburbia, as opposed to the inner city. But they had a lottery to see how many kids from the suburban areas that were going to get sent to some crappy inner city school. And the way I remember it, my folks were like, well, if you get picked in the lottery to go to inner city school, we're just going to put you in a private school. Fuck it. And that was the thing. It's like, if you see someone, I could understand people wanting to get a better education for their kids. That makes sense. But it's like, if you see someone drowning in the ocean and there's sharks circling and they're going to be attacked by a shark, okay, it's okay to take the kids out of where the sharks are, but you don't have to balance it out by saving one kid and then tossing a couple more in where the sharks are. Those were shitty schools. My mom worked at one of them. The inner city schools sucked. I don't blame them for wanting to get out, but you don't forcibly send kids to a crappy school to counteract because there's too many smart. I mean, these people buy houses in areas, and if you go on Zillow, you can check to see the rating that the local school has. So people don't want their kids to be bused to a crappy school. That was just dumb. It's like, that's the way the government thinks this thing. In order to rebalance everything, we're going to send all these kids that are in a bad school to a good school, and all these kids that are in a good school to a really, really crappy school. That is just dumb. But it's like when I first started working on Proposition 209, when I was running my business in California, that was there was this. I mean, I thought that affirmative action was a good thing because that's what the propaganda was for my entire life. So then Ward Connerly came along, and he hired a ad agency guy, and I had a little audio company, and they wanted to do some radio spots for their Proposition Campaign 209, which was basically Ward Connerly was this black guy who thought any kind of racial discrimination was wrong. So the bill, Prop 209, was basically outlawed, quote, racial quotas or racial set-asides for education, public contracting, public housing, or government contracts. And so before, they could set quotas of how many people of which color were supposed to be admitted into any university, how many people of what color were supposed to be able to get a government contract to build like a bridge or something. And so the people that would get the contract, they were quotas, there were specific numbers, and they outlawed that. And it was just one black guy who thought any kind of racial discrimination was wrong. And guess what? He was right. The guy was right. Prop 209 won. And I have to admit, our ads were a little sneaky. But the truth is, yeah, racial discrimination is wrong. But two wrongs don't make a right. So when the whole thing with busing is, people think, okay, we want to send black kids into white schools, and people object to that. No, we don't object to that. People objected to sending kids into crappy schools. You don't have to send kids to crappy schools to send other kids to good schools. That was the plan. We're going to say, we know these schools are bad. We're going to take your kids because they lost this lottery and send them to a really crappy school, and pull these kids out of this crappy school and send them to the school right by your house. And so, yeah, people were just going to pull their kids and put them in private schools. And Luckily, my number didn't get called. But no, I got to say, there wasn't any integration that happened because of that. My recollection of busing in junior high school and high school was the high school and junior high school was very cliquey, especially high school. And it wasn't just the white kids hung out with the white kids and the black kids that hung out with the black kids. It was the preppies, not preppers, the preppy kids and the nerds hung out with the nerds, and the chess club people and the football team hung out with the football team, and the stoners hung out with the stoners, and the skateboarders hung out with the skateboarders. And it was just a lot of different cliques. I mean, the punk rockers hung out with the new wave kids, and the disco people hung out. I mean, it was just lots of little cliques. Nothing was integrated. But it was just some kids got a better education, but anybody that got sent to a crappy school didn't. And if Kamala Harris got a good education, that's great. But if it was at the expense of some other kid getting a real crappy education and having a terrible life because he got sent to a really bad school with violence and gangs and just bad teachers and that didn't care, and a principal that didn't give a shit. Well, and all the government wanted is for the numbers to come out right. It was so stupid, and so yeah, everybody was mad. And if Joe Biden was if Joe Biden was against busing, that's probably the only correct decision he's ever made in his life. And as far as Kamala Harris is a gun grabber anyway, so I'm not going to be happy. Oh, Rupan, they need you to help. They need you on a mission into Iran. You want to volunteer?
I'm not sure if I can volunteer, but what are we doing?
They want to blow up an Iranian uranium enrichment facility, and they don't want to use tannerite.
Nice.
It's going to be you and Squib parachuting in. I hope you're not afraid of heights.
Might be a little bit harder than Iraq.
Yeah, I read that link you posted, Jared, about the there was a gun rights. There's like a firefighters parade or something in Pennsylvania, and a gun rights guy had his AR, and he was just throwing out candy along the parade. And because he had his AR, somehow, I don't know, nothing bad happened, of course, but I don't know what the
baby dying in the street.
The only controversy was not enough candy for everyone.
Babies were dying in the street, HVS.
Who was dying?
Babies.
Babies. Why were they dying? They couldn't get enough candy?
Because he had it slung. He had the thing slung on him.
I'm sorry. The picture was he had a magazine with an American flag wrap.
Yes, just the image made people die. Heads exploded.
Oh, we lost Squib. Maybe he'll come back. Oh, here he is. He's only got 3 screens up on his computer. You popped in and out there, Squib.
Yeah, it's the miracle of modern technology.
Right. So, I don't know what was controversial about that parade, or somebody from the gun owners organization joining the parade and throwing out candy. It didn't look controversial or dangerous in any way to me. But I don't know, some people think guns are bad. I got a chance to poke fun at some people from the UK, a family from the UK who had a nice conversation out by the pool in the condo, and I just poke fun at the whole thing about the British Parliament banning zombie knives. And can't you just tell your politicians that there's no such thing as zombies? I mean, don't you know there's no such thing as zombies? How can you ban zombie knives? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. and which kind of brings me to the whole thing with Brexit, and that's one of the big factors that are economically. Well, we have a lot of drop-ins and dropouts today, but the whole thing with Brexit is that's one of the big things affecting the world economy is if there is going to be a Brexit, and they were basically telling me, yes, well, the leave or the remain or whichever, all the campaigns were all lies. Well, of course, they're politicians doing political advertising. Of course, everybody's going to lie to get the result they want on the vote. But the point is, what difference does it make whether you have a deal or you have a no deal exit with the EU? Because if the day after you leave, economically, all those countries will just collapse. It's not a question of other countries leaving the EU, which is what they thought the problem would be. No, it would be all the other countries collapsing without having the UK as a market, because I think the UK sells. That's the biggest market for inside the EU is people from the UK buy stuff from France and Germany and Italy, and Greece has just got a new president, and they want some major miracle. And there's more Deutsche Bank shit in the news that they're going to create a bad bank. They're gonna Deutsche Bank. They couldn't merge with Commerzbank like the German government wanted them to, so instead, I need a drink. 1 second. Gin and tonic.
Hey, how dare you suggest that they merge with another bank? They're Deutsche Bank. They do what they want.
Well, Commerzbank. The problem was that Deutsche Bank is so many. That if they merge with another bank, they would have to list all their assets and liabilities, and their liabilities it's too dangerous to list them. They owe more money than exists on the planet. So the GDP of Germany is $3 trillion. And just the derivative book alone is like $45-50 trillion of Deutsche Bank. So there's no way that Germany, even if it wanted to, could bail out Deutsche Bank. There's no way that the EU could bail out Deutsche Bank. I mean, they can't even bail out just the derivative book. So what Deutsche Bank wants to do is, without listing specifically what all their liabilities are, they want to take all their bad assets, all their credit default obligations, all the credit derivative swaps, whatever, all the convertible, every bad bet that was ever made in Deutsche Bank. They want to put it all in this bad bank. They want to create a bank that can't help but fail. So they can say that Deutsche Bank should be allowed to continue. And the thing is, its stock has gone from like 140 down to 6. And this whole idea of creating this, putting all their assets in a bad bank and calling it the bad bank is caused it to go up from 6 to 7, and people are celebrating because that's a huge percentage jump. It's like tying your foot to a boat anchor and jumping in the ocean and trying to swim. So we could have a different kind of food crisis, as if the bank. I think I said that last week. If the banking system just stops working and freezes up because there's no liquidity after Deutsche Bank goes down, then people aren't going to be able to go to a store and swipe their credit card to borrow money they don't have to buy food, and people won't be able to eat anywhere in the Western world. So that will be a problem, besides whether or not there's actually any food there from the farms. So there's just a lot of balls in the air and shit that could go wrong. And I specifically don't do fear porn. Okay. So, but I think all this can be dealt with by most people with sensible everyday, just by being a prepper, doing little preps every day. And over time they add up. And I don't mind talking about some of these things that could go wrong, but I'm not trying to scare anybody. And do what you think is right, and just use common sense, because nobody else is. And if you have to run from a bear or a bear market, remember that I don't have to be a better shot than everybody else on gun channel. I don't have to run faster than everybody else on gun channel. I only have to run faster than the slowest person. And and so if you're running from a bear, remember that you only have to run faster than the slowest person. And if you're running from a bear market, you only have to be better than the worst bank, which is Deutsche Bank. And and the worst economy, which is like the whole EU. I mean, so if that's why people are investing in America, because they want to get the hell out of the EU, because they see what's coming. And a lot of countries are like trying to repatriate their gold. Like Poland is trying to repatriate $100 billion worth of gold. So there's a lot of nations that are doing gold. I don't think there's a shortage of gold. I think that every country is lying about how much they have. It's what Churchill said about the truth is very precious. So everywhere it goes, it has to be accompanied by a bodyguard of lies, which was the concept behind the first U.S. Army group in Patton in Kent, Southern England, being right across from the Pas de Calais, and to kind of keep the whole German 15th Army was waiting after the invasion of Normandy. After the troops had already landed, they were still waiting for Patton to come, because they were. So I don't think nobody knows I don't think there's any shortage, but I don't think nobody knows how much gold there is. There's a shortage of silver because it's priced. Its spot price is less than the cost of production. No, the spot price the spot price of silver is, it's lower than the cost of production. So that's a problem. And it's used as an industrial metal in everything that has anything to do with technology. So, but the price has been manipulated since, I think, the Opium Wars between England and China. So I don't know. If anybody wants me to talk about crypto, I will. I think Oklahoma was the only one that was really interested in it, but it's been doing pretty well. I'll just have a quick look at my wallet real quick. Today, Bitcoin's up 10.49%. Okay, $12,627 a coin. Whoop-de-doo. We'll see what happens when Deutsche Bank finally gives up the ghost. But it's like, if you have some crypto, you're probably feeling very good. I think it'll be very interesting, Dusty, I hope you're not falling asleep on me, if gold actually goes up to the price that crypto's at. I'll be very happy because I have gold. But I think it should. It might go up to the price where Bitcoin is. So gold at $10,000 an ounce, I'll be happy. I don't know what I'll use it for, but I'll be happy. Assuming nothing terrible, no terrible calamity has happened to cause it to go up to that amount. But hey, you can't go wrong with guns and ammo. I got an email from Classic Firearms today, and they had like a deal on a used S&W 500 for like, I don't know, $800. I was like, if you want to man the fuck up, that can't go wrong with an S&W 500. That's like, has anybody here ever shot one of those things?
Not yet, but I intend to. But the 460 is actually more powerful, from what I understand.
The 460 is more powerful than a 500?
That's what Sean Connery says, and he knows his big bores, so.
Wow. Well, we'll take his word for it. I mean, I saw like the Gunny Lee Army butcher his name. He did a show where he shot the 500, and like you could see his whole wrist, his whole forearm, just kind of like the shockwave going through his forearm. It looked pretty powerful to me, but
I imagine it's nothing to laugh at, but I'd like to try it. The biggest thing I've shot is a 454 Casull.
I dry fired a 500, so I don't think that counts. But it was a big sucker. Anyway. I think it would count. Who makes a 450 Casull revolver?
454, Taurus, Smith, Ruger might. I think, yeah, Ruger does. BFR, which is Magnum Research. And then, what's the lever action gun company that makes all the big bores? They're out in Montana. I can't think of them, but they make lever actions in 500 Smith & Wesson and 454 and stuff like that. I'm on a blank on them.
They had a Henry 44 Magnum rifle in their ad too. No, that was Cope's distributing. I think maybe that was Cope's.
Well, I love my Henry 44, but I need to get a sidearm to go with it. I'd actually like to get a Smith & Wesson Model 29.
Well, okay, who's making that snoring sound? Dusty, wake up. All right. Let's see, I'll check the external typing.
You're gonna have to give him the badge.
Negotiator says every 90 cell phones has 1 ounce of silver inside it. Do the math. Yeah, Apple Computer should be buying a lot of silver, but they can afford it. Let's see. There goes Squib making an insane comment in the external. Scarcity is real. Mathematics is real.
Mathematica is real?
Mathematics are real.
Oh, I thought they said Mathematica.
That's some imaginary country that we've got to invade by the numbers.
I want this to go by the numbers.
Oh, by the way, Rupan and I are not getting parachuted in. They can drop us with a helicopter. They can pick us up with a helicopter. I'm not jumping out of a perfectly good aircraft.
You don't have to like it. You just have to do it.
That's what they said about the food, but I liked it. So
you know, when my dad was a kid, his family was. I mean, he was so poor that basically he told me what he loved. His favorite lunch was a ketchup sandwich. Ketchup on white bread. So when he joined the army, I mean, he loved shit on a shingle. He just and when he was working for Fox and he was giving out free films for the military to show to the deployed troops overseas, he would get them free films, and so they gave him in order to thank him for doing that, they gave him a free they gave him a trip made him a VIP for like a guest VIP for like a few days to cruise on a Navy. I'm trying to remember what kind of ship it was, but yeah, and the first thing he asked for was like, "Do you have shit on a shingle in your galley? Because I really love that stuff." And well, I guess it's better than ketchup sandwiches, which is what he grew up with. But creamed ground beef, he loved that stuff, and I think he still does.
flour, milk, ground beef, black pepper. That's it. That's the Navy recipe for it. I still make it to this day. I learned how to make it when I was on board ship. but it's officially called in the recipe book. It's cream ground beef. But yeah, shit on a shingle is an old, and the shingle is just a piece of toast. But typically I put it on top of eggs or eggs and biscuits. But I still make I can either make it to the military recipe or I do a variation of it. But I mean, pretty much any sort of biscuits and gravy kind of gravy is going to be like that. So.
Is that Dusty snoring? I gotta mute.
Oh, Worcestershire sauce, but it's there for color, not for flavor.
Okay, I muted Dusty. I got tired of hearing him snore. Worcestershire. So tell me the ingredients again. Worcestershire sauce.
Okay, flour, milk, ground beef, black pepper, and Worcestershire sauce for color, not for flavor.
Maybe I'll get my mom to make Dad that for his birthday. My dad's going to be 84 in August, so I was trying to figure out what to get him, and we're having problems because my dad's really hard to buy for. So
get him some Bitcoin.
No, I think my family's happy with just me having all the cryptocurrencies. They have if something happens to me, they have instructions in a sealed envelope on how to access all my cryptocurrencies. It becomes valuable and like I get run over by I don't know, a rogue National Guard armored vehicle. then they'll know how to get my crypto. But they're happy with me in charge of the crypto. They don't need to worry about it. I mean, I'll just leave it at that. I'll say that it's definitely there's young people have a different view of cryptocurrencies than older people do, and I think it's because of where young people get their news from the internet, and older people get their news from like Walter Cronkite, like ABC News or something, broadcast every night, and or something like that. And so if you basically, I think I had told my dentist about Bitcoin like I don't know a few months ago, and so he went and he likes his hobby is dancing with I mean just like real kind of like flamenco dancing and all kinds of really formal dancing kinds of techniques and stuff. So he asked the kids that he dances with like if they knew about it, and yeah, they all knew about cryptocurrencies and they were willing to talk. It's like he had never heard about it before. But so there's an age there's a difference between just how people think about it based on how old they are. And that's just something to keep in mind when you think about it. If you don't, the only advice I ever give people about cryptocurrency is don't keep it on an exchange. The exchanges don't work if there's no banking liquidity. The exchanges won't work, and you won't get your coins. So put it in your own private wallet where only you have the keys. It'll be good to go. Who's making all that noise, Rupan? You working on a gun or something?
I typed like 3 buttons on my keyboard. Apologize.
Okay. I guess the microphone is by the keys. I'm gonna check the external, see what people are saying. I saw a negotiator typing a few things. Biscuits. Negotiator says, love biscuits and gravy sausage. Gravy. I have the Mountain House biscuits and gravy. I haven't. It's in a number 10 can, so I haven't popped that one open. I have a lot of different stuff that I haven't popped open. I don't like to pop open my number 10 cans just for a taste test. But I guess biscuits and gravy in the military is different. Like I said, my dad grew up and ketchup sandwiches was what he grew up on. So to have shit on a shingle was like a big improvement. I really think my dad would like that for his birthday because he always raves about it. I think when he was on that ship, it was like some kind of. It wasn't as big as a destroyer. It was some kind of smaller missile patrol boat kind of thing that they use for interdicting smuggling and stuff. It wasn't the Coast Guard; it was the Navy. They gave him like a big. They let him fire one of the big guns, and they gave him one brass round cartridge that he could take home as a souvenir. Well, basically, today I got some. When I went to Safeway, I picked up 2 1-pound cans of steel cut Irish oats oatmeal. So I got my breakfast shit hit the fan breakfast covered. I mean, I already had some, but I really go through those. So because I do eat a lot of oatmeal because it's good for lowering. It really just lowers my blood pressure, and it's good, clean energy burn for the whole day. It's a nice, even, and steady, and it's not like instant oats. You get it's like a sugar high because the fiber from steel cut oats takes longer to work through to be digested, so it just burns. The energy is a more even burn for the whole day. Let's see. I got another thing of kosher salt when I was there. I walked through. I was looking for some blue curacao, but they didn't have any from Curacao, the island, and they just had some from Kentucky, and I didn't pick that up because the curacao from Curacao, they use this specific fruit that's like, I forget, it's a lemon orange or lemon colored orange and orange colored lemon, but I wanted to get the original, try and find the original, because I wanted to make like a red, white, and blue shooter, kind of a drink for the 4th of July. And so I had been looking for it, but basically the first layer at the bottom of the glass is grenadine because it's red, and then just kind of a clear Blanco tequila for the white, and then the top would be a layer of blue curacao in a chilled glass thing. And then after you make it, you just chill it in the refrigerator for a couple hours, and then you can use it as a shooter. But I wanted to get original blue curacao, not just something that didn't use the original fruit that they make the liqueur from. So that will be hard to find on this island, but there might be 1 or 2 stores that have it. So I was complaining that there's a severe shortage of blue curacao on this island. And that was something I got from watching the Gold Cup when Curacao played Honduras. Or was it Haiti? No, it was Honduras. And they beat them. And because the Curacao only has 140,000 people on it. It's a little island in the Caribbean near Venezuela. And it's just amazing that they could field a team that could compete with the much larger country like Honduras, population-wise. Anyhow, as far as the whole thing with the women's soccer team, there was a little bit of controversy when some reporter asked the U.S. forward Megan Rapinoe if she wanted to go to the White House if they won the World Cup, and she said, "We're not going to the White House." And basically, she was like protesting by not singing the national anthem when they were because when they sing the national anthems at the beginning of the matches, she just didn't sing it. That was her protest. She didn't take a knee or anything. But the next day, the next match after somebody asked her that question, she didn't play, and so the 11 members that they said she had a hamstring injury, so maybe that was true. Maybe there was something happened internally with the team that they just didn't want to talk about. But what I saw that Alex Morgan, the other star, she wasn't singing, but all the 10 other players were singing the national anthem. So it's just the 2 superstars that have some problem singing the national anthem for some reason. So I kind of, it was, I mean, I enjoyed the game. I liked Rose Lavelle. She was good in all the games, and she scored the goal in that wasn't from a penalty shot, but the goal during the game. And she was just a good winger. She was like a center fielder on the right wing, and she kind of was fast enough to run and kind of be a forward too. It was a fun match. I don't know. A lot of people don't like sports, but whatever. Okay, let's see what's going on in the side chat.
I would definitely laugh that other countries may have seen her do that, and including some countries where it's illegal to drop the flag on the ground, or it's illegal to do any of those gestures or stuff like that. So I would almost laugh at the countries.
For doing what? Who are you laughing at, and why? You got me confused.
No, I'm just saying, like, I know some people see like a large amount of disrespect, and they're going to do that for whatever reason they want to do it for, anyways. But I would more or less laugh at how many other countries where if you did that, like we're watching, where it's illegal to disrespect the flag.
Yeah, they would be hauled off and arrested or something, or shot.
Yeah. So
She has the right to do that, but she's embarrassing her own country by behaving that way publicly when she's at an event where she has that many eyes on her, when she's on national, international TV, and she's representing our country. That's one of those times where you take it the way you want to take it, man up, and you do the right thing. But they're entertainers. You can say, no, they're athletes. No, they're entertainers. So I just think that you wear the uniform, you represent the country. And you know what? I guess it's because they're civilian. Because when you're in the military and you wear the uniform, you represent the country. You're told, especially when you're overseas, do not embarrass America. I can't believe somebody didn't set them down and say, whatever you do, do not embarrass America. We don't care what your politics are. We don't care what your religion is, your sexual preference. We don't care if you're rich or poor, how you grew up, where you grew up, whatever it is. You're representing America. You got that uniform on. You are on television. Do your best. Even if you don't agree, do the right thing for your country. But nowadays, people don't do the right thing for their country. We'll never have the greatest generation ever again in this country. We will never have people that would put their country before themselves.
Never's a long time, Squib. Never's a long time.
I know what you're saying, Squib, but on the same end, like, I would expect the people on the women's soccer team to be extremely left-wing. So, I mean,
Well,
that's true, but put your politics aside when you're representing the country. When you come back and you're on The View and they want to trash talk the president or the other party or men or whatever, even then, are you wearing the uniform or the medal while you're on TV? Think about what you're doing. Try to be neutral. Try to dodge the question, or tell them, we're not going to talk about this. We're going to talk about how we won the
World Cup.
the World Cup, whatever. All right, but there's a certain, when you represent the country, there's a certain amount of, and I understand you go, well, look what the president does. Yes, his tweets are embarrassing. It is in the same sense that Obama knelt before the Saudi king. That was embarrassing to America. When Trump says some of the things he says on Twitter, it's embarrassing to the country. There's a certain amount of, when you are in the spotlight like that, or when you do a certain job and you represent our country and you wear a uniform, or you're part of a team or an organization, whatever it is, you're going to have to accept the fact that you have to give up some of that stuff. I should say, give up your public display of it. It's kind of like if you were sponsored by Coke and were seen publicly drinking a Pepsi. You know what I mean? So, and I don't think people. We're a free country, and you have the right to say, no, screw that, I'm going to say what I want to say. But just understand that you make us weaker when you do that, whether you're Trump tweeting or whether you're this twit doing her thing.
I think that most of the team wanted to go to the White House because I saw 10 of the 11 players singing the national anthem enthusiastically, and it was just Alex Morgan that wasn't, and the reason they gave for the semifinal for Megan Rapinoe not being there is because, well, I mean, she wasn't out on the field for the national anthem because she said she wasn't playing that game because she had a bad hamstring, if you believe that. But it's quite also possible that they just benched her for what she did for that response, and because the rest of the team clearly didn't feel the way she did. Like, most of the players didn't have any problem at all. It was just Alex Morgan and Megan Rapinoe. and if they really don't like Trump, that's okay. And but yeah, you don't have to just. It seemed to me like the whole team, except for those two people, wanted to go to the White House, but Megan Rapinoe wanted to go see Ocasio-Cortez at the House of Representatives or something, which is like, it's like that song from the Scarecrow from the Wizard of Oz. If I only had a brain. I don't know what you'd say that.
You sure she could make it over there without, by mistake, stumbling into concentration camps?
That was that. Yeah, I mean, it's like she doesn't know what a concentration camp is. Literally, she doesn't.
If she's very convinced that that place is a concentration camp, then yes, she is.
She needs to just go to Poland and visit a real concentration camp to see what they look like.
But that's not what it was about. That's not. She knows she knows the difference between it. But you know, you get to see, like I see memes.
Political hyperbole. It's political hyperbole.
Well, I see memes where people are like, "Oh, white people care more about. They care more about Ariel being white, and they care more about. No, they care more about the the Little Mermaid, and something and Nike shoes instead of caring about people in concentration camps, like brown people in concentration camps." So I was like, so I had to go look up what the whole Ariel thing was about, and apparently, now I haven't seen anybody say anything negative about this, but apparently there's white people saying that, so Disney cast the new Ariel character as an African American woman in the new movie, so apparently white people are up in arms everywhere about it. Now I haven't seen any white person say that they have a problem with this, so I don't know. I'm
still upset that somehow Disney bought 20th Century Fox, but whatever. That's beside the point.
So, I don't know. I haven't seen any white people angry about this, so I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. But apparently, there's been a bunch of white people angry about it.
Well, speaking of angry, before the shit hits the fan, let's talk about the whole Jeffrey Epstein's little black book. So I think he was convicted of, what was Jeffrey Epstein convicted of? Some kind of sex predator, running some child sex predator kind of service for very rich politicians. And his black book is full of a lot of names. And it's something about taking flights to some Caribbean island where there was a bunch of children sex slaves. And the names in his black book, he's trying to avoid a 45-year prison sentence. And so the names and what is this? Basically, the black book was stolen out of his house by his former manager Alfredo Rodriguez, who was busted trying to sell it in 2009 for $50,000, only to get caught, charged with obstruction of justice, and die in prison 18 years. Now, after 18 months from a long illness. Okay. Let's see. According to an FBI affidavit, Rodriguez described the address book and the information contained within as the holy grail or golden nugget to unraveling Epstein's sprawling child sex network. But despite having been subpoenaed for everything he had on his former boss, Rodriguez didn't share it with the FBI or Palm Beach Police Department detectives investigating Epstein. Instead, he tried to make a $15,000 score by covertly peddling the black book to one of the attorneys launching lawsuits at Epstein on behalf of his victims. So some of the names in the big book are reported to include, I'm getting this off of just Zero Hedge, so take it with a grain of salt. This is like a Russian propaganda website, but nevertheless, this story has been out there for a while. Ralph Fiennes, Alec Baldwin, David Blaine, Jimmy Buffett, Courtney Love, Charlie Rose, Mike Wallace, Barbara Walters, Ehud Barak, Tony Blair, David Koch, John Gutfreund, Prince Andrew, and of course, Bill Clinton and Donald Trump. So, like I said, take it with a grain of salt, but that's what that basically he was convicted and he's going to be sentenced to something, and so we'll see what's in this little black book. So he's like this billionaire who flew rich politicians to his little sex island. He bought some island in the Caribbean, and that's the story. We'll see if any of it's true or any if it's proven or what's in his little black book over time. But a lot of stuff is happening. So whether this is all going to happen at the same time that Mueller testifies in front of Congress, I think he's got 2 hearings if that actually happens, and then all the Democrats screaming the impeachment word, and but and you know, so you combine everything together, and it's boil, it's like a Wicked Witch of the West mixing a big pot of evil stew and seeing what comes out of it in between all the stuff that's wrong with the world. It's just everything's happening all at once. So if like the economy stops, people will be too busy looking at the breaking news about Jeffrey Epstein's black book or a quasi impeachment hearing with Michael Mueller, and what's the name of the guy from Watergate that's testifying? One of the attorneys from Watergate is testifying too for no reason other than he was involved with the impeachment of Richard Nixon. It's a crazy world. So hopefully it doesn't pay to be a prepper, but it feels nice to at least be prepared for the insanity that appears to be headed. The world seems to be headed for one way or the other through war, sex, lack of food, starvation, and just fraud, banking fraud. I don't know where the world's going to, but I gotta say, having gold, silver, and crypto makes me feel, and guns and ammo makes me feel, and food makes me feel a little bit like maybe I'm the only sane person left, which is pretty sad because anybody that knows me knows that I'm kind of crazy. And
I don't have a soundbite for that.
Yeah. You have a soundbite?
No, I don't have a soundbite queued up for that.
Let's see if I can find one really quick. But somebody says slide. Somebody texted me something. All right, for the 808, here we go. But let's see.
808 in the house.
808 in the house. Right. The other thing I wanted to say to Squibb was I think he thought that if I was to come to Michigan and the shit hit the fan, that one thing he would want me to do is help organize the preps over at Dusty's farm. And I really have a response to that, which is if I only took a picture of my living room and texted it to you, and you saw how messy it was, you would see what a ridiculous idea that is.
I had to give you a desk job, dude.
it's just I am such an unorganized bachelor slob. I make Oscar and Felix from The Odd Couple. I make Oscar look like a neat freak. Okay, I swear I need to just.
I'll whip you into shape. I'll turn you from an unsat shit bird into locked and cocked. And
I will bury you in my junk and squalor.
You're gonna be stepping aboard Squibb's Island.
Okay.
yeah,
Here's
He's
only
gonna give you the
soundbite.
tour of the island, and you're getting voted off on the first day.
unless he's got the what is that? The immunity idol.
Yeah.
All right.
And instead, they gave him the obscenity idol or something else.
I'm not sure.
The indecency idol. They gave him every idol but the immunity one. It's like, ah, shit.
What movie are you referring to? Because you lost me.
What was it? Temptation Island or whatever that was? Survivor. It was Survivor.
That's Survivor.
I don't think I saw that one. Let's see. I think I've watched like One Naked and Afraid, and the last Stallone I saw was when he missed the moose with his arrow, and he only had one arrow.
So when I went to the farm on Saturday, I mentioned that the second driveway would be a good spot to put a couple of hedgehogs. I got a very swift no. We're both looking at the driveway. No. So, but I can't remember what he said when I said, that spot back there would be really good for the horses. I think I got a silent no, like a facial.
Well, you should use the thing with the hedgehogs the next time his wife jumps on you for medical stuff or something. Just say, I think that I came up with a really good spot for your hedgehogs. With hedgehogs. See what she does.
You know what? If the apocalypse happened and we bugged out to the farm, I would make sure that anything that needed to be done would get done. So even if it was a task that I had to learn, I would learn it. Or, if I had to delegate it to my son, they would do it and they would do it well. I brought a shovel on Saturday just in case he wanted to put me to work. So I'm not afraid of hard work, and there's definitely lots of that around there.
Entrenching tool or a shovel?
No, a transfer shovel with a fiberglass handle. So, but on the way out, instead of going home the normal way, I decided to do some recon. I've come in from the east. You can't really come in from the north. I've come in from the south. So this time I left from the west to try to get an idea of what's west of there. And I've figured out how to get there by following the train tracks, and it would actually take more time following the railroad than it would take following the major roads, but we'd have more cover if we followed the railroad. So I found where the railroad was and figured out exactly how far it would be to get from, at a certain point we'd get off the railroad and be walking the main highway to get to all the side back roads to get to the farm. And so I did a little recon and whatnot. I mean, I keep prepping in the back of my mind, but
prepping
it's
a mental exercise. Yeah.
Well, if there's something to do, if somebody is willing to teach you, I encourage anybody to take advantage and learn. You never know when you're going to use that skill, but stay aware of things and understand this, that you may have a bug out location or you may have multiple bug out locations, but no more than one way to get there. Know what your alternatives are in case a road is blocked or there's a flood or whatever it is. My bug out location in Kentucky, I know all three ways to get to it. Once you get into the county, getting down there's multiple ways, and I've purposely taken nothing but U.S. highways instead of interstate to get there, just to see how many different and there's so many ways you can break off and jump on another highway heading that direction.
Kentucky, I'd want to bug out to a distillery.
Yeah. See, then that county's dry. The distilleries are actually on the east side of the state, and my bug out location in Kentucky is on the west side of the state. But still, when I've taken different trips down there, I've taken different side roads, and it's taken long. It's a lot more scenic. You'll see a lot more getting off the expressway, but it's just good to know, and especially like if you take it in the winter and you see how bad it is, or how, I mean, does the snow drift a lot here because there's a lot of open fields, or is there a lot of forest, or I mean, just stupid things to take into consideration if you're thinking that you're either going to have to travel on foot or by vehicle, and how far and where you're going to go. And I mean, I'm sure you've taken different routes to get to up on the volcano, and the volcano is a vast area. I mean, you could come in from different directions, right?
Well, there's only one road in, and it's the Belt Road. And there's one road around the island, and that's the only road to get there. You can come in from the Hilo side or the Kona side.
Okay, so let's say you had to ditch the truck and you had to get out on foot. I mean, do you think you could hack your way through the jungle, or?
Well, I mean, as opposed to just walking down the road, why would I go through the jungle when there's a perfectly good road?
Well, didn't you tell me that if we take the road to Dusty's versus taking the railroads that were exposed, we're out in the open?
Yeah, that's in Michigan.
If we're walking on the highways, the state and federal highways, to get to his place, we'll get there probably a day or two sooner. If we walk the railroad tracks, we actually have to go out of our way, but there is a way to get there by a railroad.
I believe I keep suggesting bicycle, but you keep shooting that down. So
no, but if you know what, I might go see that doctor his wife wants me to see, if he'll let me bring horses.
Well, with the cost of grain, I mean, in between now and the apocalypse, I mean, you got to feed them in between now and then, and exercise them, and pick up after them, and be nice to them, and stuff like that. I mean, a horse is an animal, has a big responsibility.
So here's the thing: if we get there and the horses are not welcome, or we can't feed them, then I guess we'll eat them.
That was specifically the point of taking a horse for which famous Indian warrior am I? Crazy Horse. When he was being hunted by the army, and in the dead of winter, he had to go out hunting with just a bow and an arrow and his horse, because if he could get a deer to feed his tribe, then he'd need the horse to take the deer back, carry the deer back to his tribe from where he was hunting. And if he couldn't get a deer for his tribe, then he'd have to eat the horse. So that's valid from a survival. That's what Crazy Horse, that was his thinking. And he was a good hunter. So I think that's a perfectly valid strategy if you're not too overly attached to your horse to eat it. Or you like eating horse. Personally, I prefer a nice marbled steak off the cattle, but whatever. Yeah, it's horses. Shit hits the fan transportation, but so is a bicycle. And remember when we were talking last week about the
bicycle?
The British surrendered. We had that conversation about the bridge on the River Kwai, and I said the British were ordered to surrender, so that trying to escape could be considered violating of their orders. But when the British were ordered to surrender, they were ordered to surrender to a numerically inferior Japanese force on bicycles.
I would never surrender to a man on a bicycle.
Oh. Okay. Well, the whole army had bicycles, so.
I want to ride my bicycle.
Okay, Rupan, give us a Mac 11 update to save the show.
Well, I mean, I got an update right now here with the Steyr AUG. I have modified a second trigger group so I can use the US-made Microtech MSAR stock.
That stock that wasn't working and had the weird screw and last week.
I ordered.
Yeah, how did you get that out?
I got the correct bit. There was a extra large bit, so I ordered the extra large, and that worked. And luckily, that company's not around anymore. But they're knife tamper-proof bits. So I got that off. I added some material tonight using a plastic epoxy to the little part that's missing material. Doesn't have enough material. And then I took off the bolt hold open because I don't have that trigger group for this stock. They don't exist. There's no more. So I'm modifying an AUG NATO stock trigger group to fit this. So I don't know if I'll ever get the bolt hold open to work.
Okay.
But,
now, Australia adopted that as their primary infantry rifle, correct?
yeah.
What other country? I know it's an Austrian weapon, but did the Austrian army adopt it, or was that just a police type weapon? Or
No, it was adopted by the Austrian army. Yeah, I'm almost positive it was.
Austria and Australia both used it.
I thought the whole purpose behind it had the ability to function better in like an Arctic environment for some reason. So, or in Antarctic environment in the case of Australia.
I don't know about that, but here, let me turn my camera so I'll show you the stock again. So,
all right,
I've got the parts right in here, and I've added material to this right here. You can't really see it that well. I'll take it out of the bag. It's gonna hold on. I gotta do it one-handed.
All right, I'm presenting this so everybody can see it, no matter who talks.
All right, and I've added some material to this, which should allow me to have the proper magazine. And it's not focusing at all, but that's fine. So I've added material to that, and that should just bump me up just enough to allow the mag to actually come out of this. Now this uses AUG mags. This uses AR-15 mags. So
the AUG. I thought the AUG was set up for Stanig mags.
No.
No.
Not originally.
Okay.
This is an A2 that was turned into assault weapons band configuration. So an AUG A2 did not use Stanag mags. So we've got this working to should work that just like that. Or I might have to take some material off, or maybe I might have to add some material. Should allow me to do that. Now I've had to cut this part off the trigger group for this gun. I had to take out a little dimple thing in the front here. I put a US-made trigger sear in it. And then I need to take more material away from here. I need to go probably even a little bit deeper into this area right here. And then I have to figure out how to make the bolt hold open button actually work. I don't know if it's possible, but maybe I won't get it to work. Maybe I can, I don't know, put something on here, attach something, weld something to this after I remove some material, so when you push down, it pushes this guy down. But right now I tested it, and this automatic hold open will work, but obviously there's no release. So, but I mean, at the least, this is a US made stock, so it lets you use the 20-inch barrel, US made muzzle device on there, and then you have the US made trigger sear, and then you throw a Stanag mag in there, and now you're at your 6 parts, and you've met 922R.
For 922R, yeah.
And you can put the, I still have the original barrel, and I have the original stock, and the original trigger group, and the original butt plate, because this uses a different butt plate. So it allows you to go back to, I haven't destroyed something like before. I got to mail something out tomorrow. That's why I got this right here. But, yeah, so it functions properly with this bit of material to remove. If I remove some more, I can maybe figure it out. But you can buy new ones of these. This is a new old stock or whatever. I don't know. You can buy more of these. You can't buy more of these without spending serious money. You can't buy more of these, or you can, but it's all serious money. So, this is $150. This is like $350. This is more than $350. So, what are you gonna do? I'll break the cheapest part.
Yeah, it makes most sense.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, I can always sell this. What's cool is a guy wanted to trade me his whole rifle. And I kind of was like, yeah, I don't know about it. Maybe I'll do my Ruger Precision, maybe not. And then he kind of tells me that he's worried about breaking parts in his rifle because like they had some reliability issues. Well, I'm kind of lucky because I have the actual Steyr gun. And if I throw the Steyr gun in there, then I can have the cool guy stock or the A4 stock with the reliability of Steyr and not that weird knife company. So I definitely went off the deep end, but I always go off the deep end. So
when are we going to see this thing functioning?
if that little modification worked, then we should be able to put mags in it, and I can run it just the way it is right now. I don't have to finish doing this, so I can leave that off for right now.
All right. Well, we get to see some range videos soon.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks.
Yeah, we need some Die Hard. We need to throw in some Die Hard references to what was the name of the character that was Hans? Carl. And his brother Hans, right? So, all right. Well, I think we just about covered everything that we can on the Lock and Load show. I'll go look at the external comments really quick before we wrap this show up for tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to do this, but I went off the deep end. I always go off the deep end. So
Why? Why do you go off the deep end?
I think if I ever wanted to let this go, like maybe after I get it running, maybe when the Trump slump 2020 starts coming around the corner, I'll throw it online just to see what I could get. Maybe after I have my fun with it. So I don't know. We'll see.
You don't think it'd be a good shit hit the fan weapon?
Potentially, but the AR is just the lightweight AR is such a go-to thing, and I got the AR-10 running, so that's like a 7-pound AR-10.
Very light.
It doesn't kick that much. It doesn't kick nearly as much as the Set-Me kicks. The Set-Me gives you a good hit.
So the AR-10 is in 308?
Correct. And it's really nice. It's lightweight. It doesn't have nearly as much recoil, as the Set-Me. So I can fire a lot more and not be jacked up. So that's nice. I got to do more with the Set-Me. I'm just this weekend I couldn't do anything and didn't get. I got the ammo that I wanted. I got more non-typical ammo to take the Ruger Precision out, but I just didn't get a chance to do it. But it is what it is. Stuff happens. I was actually joking with my fiance about how, like, I've been talking to her about doing a YouTube cooking show and put like all her aunt's recipes on YouTube so other family members can recreate her aunt's, quote unquote famous recipes. And I was just like, I was cooking tonight, and I was like, man, that'd be so freaking easy. And she's like, why? I was like, you don't have to drive to the range and deal with other people who are assholes. You can literally, I could set up like 3 or 4 cameras in the kitchen, and you could literally just cook in the kitchen, and you're here. You don't have to go anywhere other than, Market Basket to get some food.
So Squib, you need to make a shit on a shingle video.
Yeah.
I mean, I could. Food review videos are the easiest to do. Because you, like he says, you literally don't have to go anywhere. You're going to eat it anyhow. You have everything you need in the kitchen. Stuff at the grocery store doesn't cost a lot. Now, don't get me wrong. My last batch of coffee videos, and I haven't even published all of them, I spent $50 in a day on coffee, which for me is a lot. For some people, that's not a lot of money, but for me, that's a lot. I mean, that could buy me months and months worth of Maxwell House. But so what?
Who the
You
hell
know, I
wants
mean, we
Maxwell
drank it.
House?
Well, I drink it, but I'm just saying that buying different coffees costs a lot of money, or more than I'm used to. But I mean, it's coffee, and we're going to drink it anyhow. It's good. My wife liked it. I mean, so but cooking videos or food reviews are fairly easy to do. If you screw it up, okay, fine. Then next time you cook it or make it or whatever, you just shoot footage again. I've done the same gun cleaning video 3 times, and 3 times I've scrapped it. So
The problem
know-
I have with food videos for like prepping kinds of food is that my preps are for an emergency. They're not for just doing YouTube videos. And so if I use it all for videos, that's food that I won't have for. I try not to eat my prepping food. I mean, I've done some taste tests for some things just so I would know what I liked and what I didn't. But if I just taste test everything, then there won't be anything left for shit hits the fan. I'm definitely not opening my number 10 can of biscuits and gravy.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but my thing is like, just the last time I went to the 600-yard range, like a guy who was going to teach a class later that day, which I didn't even know it was going to be there because it wasn't on the calendar, and he just started getting like super standoffish with my buddy, and then he started like being like real like rude with me for no reason, and he was like, how long are you gonna be here? I was like, well, I only got like 17 rounds left, so I don't know, maybe 20, 30 minutes. And he was like, I was like, I might come back later. No, you're not.
Somebody asked me that. I'd say I'm here just long enough to see you flip out.
I don't know, man. The guys, it's like you're just trying to go out there and get some video, and you got, people flipping the hell out over nothing. And
Well, maybe they thought they were in the video or something. I don't know.
I didn't even have any camera equipment out. All I had was my Ruger precision rifle out, and I think I triggered him because it's black and aluminum. It's not a Ruger, M77 or whatever. So I think I upset Mr. Fudd. So.
Oh, you were too tactical?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, people just busting balls. I mean, unless if people just fucking break balls just to be real nasty and rude, I don't know why else someone would be that way. But, several times now I've had people be rude and nasty. And I'm not like, that's why you barely see any shooting footage in my videos, or it's real quick because I try to just hide it. Because, these guys bust my balls without even knowing that I'm filming. I can't even imagine. It'd probably have me banned. I don't know. Try not to let it bother me, but it becomes a pain in the ass when you're trying to film anything. You get guys like looking at you going, I think you're shooting the house behind your target, like the steel house. Like, no, I'm not. Yeah, you are. No, I'm not. Like if I shoot him to the right of the silhouette head, like 2 inches up from the head.
What is the problem? I mean, I got to tell you, where I go shooting on the hunting grounds, people are quite nice because nobody wants to be rude to somebody who has a high-powered rifle. It's just dumb. So nobody is. Everybody's very friendly all the time because everybody there has a high-powered rifle. It'd be really dumb to try and pick a fight with somebody who's holding a high-powered rifle.
That's Hawaii, man. People are different. I mean, even when I was at Original Bob's one time, I was trying to shoot. I wanted to get through like 300 rounds, and I just got my Walther PPS, and I just did the trigger job in it, and I knew that I could not slow fire every round and spend the amount of money it would cost to rent the range for that long. So I was loading mags, and I asked the guy, hey, is it okay if I, fire a little fast? I'm not going to be drawing from the holster. I'm just going to fire a little fast. I want to get through these rounds. I don't want to pay you for, 3 hours to rent this range. So he said, sure, go ahead. So I'm firing a little quick, and I'm, coming up on target, coming up, firing, coming back, changing the mags, just trying to get through it. And this guy just starts talking all sorts of shit. And I'm wearing like heavy ear pro. So this guy's talking loud enough to make sure that I can hear him talking lots of smack. So I mean, I don't know if it's just me. If I look, I mean, you guys have seen my face. Do I look like I'm insane or? I don't know,
Not,
but like,
not on my show, but it's like, I don't know. It's like people that, I mean, there are locals who might, in any other setting, just be standoffish or just not like somebody who's white for all kinds of reasons, or maybe I don't look local enough, even though I lived here for 20 years. People who would, in any other situation, be kind of unfriendly are very friendly at the range when everybody has a high-powered rifle. You can say that's Hawaii, but I think it's just common sense.
not here. I mean,
Nobody has
that's just.
common sense on the mainland. Okay.
I mean, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, like, I don't know, maybe Squib's seen this, but like people, I don't know if it's just me or it's because I'm younger. I mean, a lot of people for some reason think I'm like 20, but you know, it's just it's just one of those hurdles you got to get over, you know. So
The people that are rude at my range are either the FUDs that show up 1 or 2 months out of the year and then you never see them again. They come out there, sight in their hunting rifle, and they leave. And they're pretty much, they're rude. They, you know, safety, clean up after yourself, never. You know, big guns with a lot of concussion that you've got to drive 3-4 hours north to use. You can't use them down here. Whatever. The rest of the year, the rude people are the tactical guys who want to disobey the range rules, and you know they want to argue with the range safety officers and stuff like that, and they want to ruin it for everybody. But that it's not every weekend it's like that, and it's not all day that's like that. But it's usually just the people that, I don't know. It's just the people I don't want to say represent our community well. And I've had situations at ranges. I was at a range. I was at a private club, and we were doing a shooting competition. And most of the people in the competition had never shot a match before in their life. They knew how to handle a gun, but they've never shot a match. And this one guy is losing his shit. And I said, "Hey, back off. These guys have never done this." And he said, "Oh, and you have?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Really? Where?" I said, "In the Marine Corps." He shut the fuck up at that point. And he pulled me to the side and he said, "Look, man, I didn't know." I said, "Look, I could tell that these guys, that civilians, never any, no CMP, because we were doing a CMP style match. So they didn't know what they were doing. You guys didn't break it down and give an explanation and say why you're doing this, why you're doing that, why." They're totally lost, and yeah, it's taking more time, and you're losing your. I understand you're frustrated. It's taking longer, and you've only got so much daylight, and blah blah blah. But you don't just say, "All right, show up with your rifle," and just Well, later the guy said, "Oh, by the way, I'm the president of this club, and you have an open invite to join anytime." I guess he kind of appreciated the fact that I stood up to him, but he made a lot of people uncomfortable that day. They needed new members, and this is one of those bring your friends because maybe we'll accept them into the club. Well, apparently I got accepted into the club. I'm not joining. It's too far to drive. But it's like you really turn a lot of people off depending on how you are. What if this guy that's busting your balls messes with a new shooter that day, and that guy goes, "Screw it, I don't want to do this," and he throws his rifle in his case and never shoots again, right? I mean,
oh no, I've seen a guy where he was inside, exactly what you said, and he looked right at me. Not similar, but well, similar to what you said. He looked right at me and said, "I'm going to the Danvers Fish and Game Club. I'm never coming back here again." And I was like, "Why?" And he was like, "People are assholes, and it's a lot less money." And I was like, "Not arguing with you." And he was like, he looked right at me and said, I don't know, maybe this guy's seen other people breaking my balls before. I don't know. But he was like, "I'll sponsor you." I don't even know who the guy was.
Well,
So,
where I go shooting, it's hunting. We don't have a range on this island, so it's just pub. There's no rules. There's no range officers. It's every man for himself. People just show up, park their car, and set up a target and shoot. There's no range officer. It's just state hunting land,
Yeah, we
and the
don't have
rules.
range officers either.
Yeah, the rules are just. I mean, if a DLNR shows up, it's just the hunting regs, and you have to follow them. And there's a lot of hunting regs. But if there's nobody there, there's really, or there's just regular people there. There's no one's in charge. There's nobody to get. I mean, if somebody does something that's unsafe or stupid with a gun, then somebody might say something, or they might not. But
Yeah, we had something similar to that the other day. I'm test firing the AR-10, and the president walks up to me and says, "Hey, did you see anybody shooting the new wall we just put up?" And I was like, "What? What the hell are you talking about?" And he said, "Some guy
the wall is
set
this
up."
President Trump.
No, it was they just put up a new wall because they're breaking the range up into three separate parts.
Okay.
And apparently, some guy put a target up at like 20 yards on the wall, and then started shooting at an angle at the wall with his kid. So I don't know what the hell. I looked at him and I was like, I would have thrown him out of the range. Are you kidding me? I would have told him to get out. I wouldn't. And apparently, other members watched him do this. Like, you're gonna shoot the brand new wall that we just paid for? Like, If I had a K-pod, I would have threw it at him or something. I would have threw something at him. Started screaming.
Sounds like he just didn't know what the deal was.
Oh,
Somebody needed to. You guys, when you built that wall, you should have had some rules or some notices on.
Yeah, when you get inducted into this place, it's very clear what the rules are. But some people just don't care about the rules. So, which is in any situation.
You said the wall was new, so.
Yeah, they built 3 or 2 walls to cut the range into 3 pieces, and they're not fully done yet. And some guy's already shooting it.
I mean, sometimes they change the rules or something like that, and not everybody knows. Like at my range, you used to be able to draw from the holster. Now you can't. You can carry with one on your hip, open carry, but you can't draw and shoot at the shooting station. And I don't see it posted anywhere. I found out when the range safety officers told me. I'm like, well, when did this change?
Yeah.
So I mean, stuff can change, the whole point is if you're told, hey, don't do this, or it's posted, or it's kind of common sense, or whatever it is, just follow the rules. Be a good ambassador.
Well, I mean, I get pissed. I got real mad one day when this guy, the second week in a row, didn't clean up his empty cases. That really, I screamed at him, and then he refused to leave the range when I was going to go down, and then was touching his guns to try to scare me. Well, I know for a fact he can't shoot that well. So, but no, yeah, I've had a couple of people just do some dumb shit, but I'm not going to report unless if it's really dangerous. I'll just tell them hey, fix your shit or get out. I'm not going to I'm not going to talk down to people. I'm not going to be an asshole about it, unless if you do something really dangerous. Then yeah, it'd be insane. But I mean, yeah, drawing from the holster, we used to have that. We've been told we can't do it, and then I asked the president, and he said, "Do you have any law enforcement training?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, then you can do it then." But there's nothing that says that I can do it, other than him just saying that on a whim. But no, I mean, I just don't know what the problem is with somebody. I'm not you're only allowed to slow fire on pretty much every range. So I don't know what, it's not like I'm tactical shooting ARs like I'm some wild YouTuber. It has to be slow. It has to be slow fire. It has to be, and you can't load more than 5 rounds. It used to be 1 round center fire. Now it's 3 or 5 rounds center fire. I usually just do 3. So it's not at no point ever was I just sending as many rounds down range as I possibly could. So I don't know why these guys are, thinking. I mean, I guess they just see black guns and they see. Here's what I think, and this could be totally wrong. I think this guy sees me and he saw my Ruger Precision, and the kind of feeling I got from him was you're the reason we're losing our gun rights. That's the feeling I got. He didn't say that, but that's like what I felt, which is total bullshit. But, you know, like he was mad at me because he's a FUD and he perceives anybody with anything black as the reason they're losing their rights.
Well, the one thing that's bad about black guns is they're a silhouette. They're bad for if you want to be invisible. It has a unnatural straight line silhouette. It's better to camouflage. Have hydro dipped camouflage painted patterns on it. Camouflage patterns painted on your weapons than just having a black gun. I think the army. I think the army should stop issuing black guns. They should all be hydro dipped in some kind of camo pattern.
Oh, I mean, you can get them. You can camo them yourself with some paint from the POL cabinet, but
yeah, but they all need to be. They all need to be like that. It should just they should come like that. They should buy the army.
You'll get it. You'll get it dirty. When you roll around in the mud, it'll get dirty and it'll look good enough. But he got really mad that we were shooting silhouettes.
Well, the point is not to be detected, not to look. It's not how it's looking good. It's just not. The reason that you want a camo pattern is so that the rifle, the straight line, the silhouette of a rifle isn't just obvious.
No, I mean, what I'm saying is when you dig your fighting position, you're going to get mud all over yourself, all over your gun. You're probably going to slip and fall.
But when you're walking around through its city, I mean, it's like.
By the time you're done,
no, the gun is not. Though you're not going to give away your position or whatever because you didn't camouflage your weapon.
All right. Well, I hate to tell you, you're wrong about that one. I've been reading about the Appear to Vanish book by the guy who's like an expert on that stuff. So I got to tell you this one, you're wrong on that. Okay, so I'll just leave it on that note.
Well, I can tell you that I've made ACUs, full ACUs on with an M249 saw. I completely disappeared with guys like 5 yards in front of me. They couldn't see me. And all I was using was mud and some brush from around me. They didn't notice me.
Natural materials are very, like, almost the best thing you can use.
And I'm not, like, is ACUs the thing everybody says is the worst. Nobody, and that was in Hawaii.
Well, black rifles are the worst, but anyway.
And it was a black rifle, but you gotta get creative when you're out there, man. You gotta get lost in the sauce.
Absolutely.
A little bit of mud, and no one will see it.
So I'm going to recommend this book to anybody that's interested in it. Appear to Vanish by it's called Stealth Concept for Effective Camouflage and Concealment by Matthew Dermody. I will say there's just on some notes with regard to thermal camouflage. Snakebite Tactical's website is no longer online. I went there and it's just the website didn't come up anymore. But their video on how to make their thermal camouflage is still on YouTube. And if you're interested in learning how to evade thermal optic thermal detection, the video is on YouTube, and it's basically a material called that you could get at Home Depot or Lowe's called, I think it's Radiant. I'm trying to remember, Radiant Barrier, and it's like two layers of that with some polyester batting in between, and then you have to sew on some ripstop camo material on the outside so it won't just be a shiny silver thing. Cover the shiny silver part of it, but it's a radiant heat barrier, and there's they demonstrate it on the YouTube video, but you could build it yourself. Because the company is no longer online, it was the video was sponsored, and the whole concept of Snakebite Tactical originally was sponsored by Oath Keepers, and I'll try and find that link and put it in the video description after this show publishes and renders and comes on YouTube, so you can check back later And thanks for tuning in, everybody. We got to head for the chopper, and we'll hopefully all be back next week. And we'll see you then. Get to the chopper.
Do it.